and happy Friday. It's another Mavens and Manufacturing Day. And today I'm really excited to have Whitney Koch here. She is the Marketing Communication Specialist for Welker, as well as the Social Media Marketing Specialist for the North American Forest Foundation. Whitney, hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm great. It's Friday.
I know. I'm super excited to have you on, and I'm hoping some of the people from USA Manufacturing Hour are here because we're going to be talking about that later. But I want to get to know a little bit more about you first, and then ask you about the two companies that you work for. I messed up on the first post because I read your LinkedIn wrong, so I'm sorry about that.
It's okay.
But
LinkedIn gets a little confusing.
it does, and it's buggy on mobile right
It is.
now, which is
Yes.
so frustrating because I had this really long message I was trying to send someone and it just completely started over and I was like, the hell are you doing? So I had to figure that out. But so let's talk about Welker and the North American Forest Foundation. Can you tell us a little bit about those two companies?
Yes, I would love to. So Welker is a manufacturing company based in Sugar Land, Texas, which is the greater Houston area close to the Gulf Coast. If you are
Great band, by the way, too.
Sugar Land.
Great country band. Yep.
Yep. Got some famous people from our way too. We manufacture equipment that's primarily used by the oil and gas industry for sampling and also natural gas odorization. That smell that natural gas has isn't natural. It's something that's added to the gas for safety reasons. And so we manufacture equipment that can inject or infuse that liquid chemical odorant into natural gas for safety. And our sampling equipment is really used for valuation of the different products. So natural gas, crude oil, chemicals from refineries, which there's a ton of refineries here where we are, and things like that. We also, as a manufacturing company, have contract manufacturing services that we are able to offer. And we have manufactured equipment for other industries as well. We're just primarily known for oil and gas. And that's really how the company got started as well back in 1954. We are a smaller family-owned company on the third generation. So the grandson of the company founder is our current president. And a little bit about North American Forest Foundation. It's an organization based in Tennessee, and we're all about spreading the truth about trees and educating the younger generations about forestry and sharing career opportunities with them, and also letting teachers know that if you are an elementary school teacher from kindergarten to third grade, you can go on to NorthAmericanForestFoundation.org and request a free Truth About Trees kit that's got all the teaching material you need to share with your students about trees and learn a little bit about forestry.
That's awesome.
Really cool.
I love Tennessee. I want to move there because
today's
a nice day. Today's a nice day in Wisconsin. It's a little warmer than it has been. I said to my family, because I mentioned before we were doing a garage sale today, and I said to my family, I was like, hey, it looks like Wisconsin finally woke up. And my brother-in-law was like, no, you mean Wisconsin finally went to bed because it's getting warm. And I'm like, I guess that's a fair way of saying that. But it's funny because my sister's on right now. This is my sister, Tammy. Hi, Tammy. Love you. She's like, I have our Rummage customers watching and listening right now. That's pretty cool. I didn't know you had a TV set up there. We also have Diane on there. Hi, Diane.
Hey,
happy Friday. And then Gail's here. Thank you, Gail, for joining us. Appreciate it. And we have Philippe. Bonjour. Bonjour. And I'm going to bring up the comment. We have John. Good afternoon. Hi, John. Thanks for joining us. Philippe, I need to learn French. I don't know what you're saying here. Do you know, Whitney? Do you know?
I've got English and internet. That's all I got.
Philippe, I'm going to look that up, and I'm going to download French on my Duolingo app so that I can speak to you in French, because I need to learn other languages aside from English. But thank you for joining us all the way from France. I appreciate it. And then we also have Jamie. It's afternoon here, so good afternoon. Oh, are you on the East Coast? Jamie, where are you tuning in from on the East Coast? Let us know.
Jamie's up in Canada, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, you're on Canada. Okay. We like our Canada friends as well too. Thank you for joining us. So, Whitney, your pathway to manufacturing was similar to mine. We also have Valerie. She just popped in.
Hi, Valerie. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for joining us. Your journey was similar to mine. And this is why I'm excited to talk to you too, because you're a tech writer. And
Yes.
I love my tech writers because that's what I am as well. And a lot of people don't know that because when they think of me, they think of Mavens. And then they're kind of surprised that I have degrees in tech writing. But it's like, no, I actually know what I'm doing when it comes to writing. So can you talk us through your journey? Like, how did you find out about this amazing sector? And what did you do before? Because you weren't in manufacturing before.
No, I was not. I started out actually in public education. I was a high school teacher for 4 years in a district kind of nearby, the district that I graduated high school from. And when I realized that being a teacher wasn't my lifetime career, I started thinking about, okay, what is it that I'm good at? What skills do I have from teaching? What do I really want to do? And I got connected with a local job search ministry. It's a really awesome opportunity for anyone in the Houston area who doesn't mind making a drive out to Katy. It's run by members of a Catholic church, and they meet weekly. Even during the pandemic, they were meeting via Zoom, and it's led by church members who are in human resources and are very well connected and have a lot of experience. And so if you're a job seeker, you show up Monday nights for the meeting, give your elevator pitch, and really just get to network, meet a lot of people, and hear from them about their experiences. You know, people were coming from all different backgrounds, different countries, and looking for a wide variety of positions. And so it was very interesting as a younger adult to hear what other career opportunities were out there, right? A lot of times, at least in my experience, you know, we don't really know growing up what all you can do, right? As a career, there are so many fields and job titles. There's really no way to know it all. So it was a great opportunity to get to know what else was out there. And that's really where I learned about technical writing. And there was someone in our group who had been a long time technical writer, and I spoke with her and some other women in the group on different occasions, learning about technical writing. And one of the leaders of the ministry knew the person here at Welker, who at the time was sort of doing our recruiting, and knew that there was an opening for a technical writer. And that's kind of the roundabout way of how I ended up here. I just used the skills that I had as a teacher, really breaking down information into small, understandable chunks, and turn that into our installation, operation, and maintenance manuals for our equipment. And I did that for about 5.5 years.
So when you were going through school yourself, because I think you bring up a really excellent point, and this is a conversation that I have with a bunch of people in our sector about how manufacturers need to do a better job getting in front of the next generation and kind of explaining to them, hey, these are the positions that are available. These are the positions that I have, because I didn't even know technical writing was a thing. I was always told, oh, you test well in English, you're a good creative writer, you're going to either be a college professor or a teacher. Or that was it. And I'm like, I don't want to do any of that. So no, thank you. So what sort of conversations were you having during your high school career with your teachers? Like, were you always one that tested well in English and just didn't like math and science, or how did that go for you?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. I never really considered myself much of a math person. I was definitely more interested in science, and even as a freshman in college, there was about a 2-week span where I thought about becoming a biology major until I realized I had to take chemistry, and I was like, well, oh well. That's okay. But yeah, English, really liberal arts subjects have always been of great interest to me, and I've done well in them. And the high school that I attended, the atmosphere, at least at the time, I can't speak for the way it is now, but at the time it was very much you graduate high school and you go to college. That was pretty much it. And a 4-year college. We weren't even talking about doing like a 2-year at a community college and transferring. Like it was just go to a 4-year college university. And that was also sort of the expectation in my family. My older sisters had, followed down that path. That's what both of my parents had done. And really, I wasn't going to go into the military, so I didn't know of any other options, right? That just wasn't something that was really presented in my family or in my school. Coming back later to the same district and teaching at a different school that just had a very different student body, it was really different in terms of messaging. The district has a career in technology division that has grown a whole lot since I was a student. And I saw a lot more kids at the school I taught at taking part in those programs and doing sort of early career training. And they also added fields or classes for things like welding. So I had a student one year who told me he wanted to be a subsea welder. And I was like, what?
What is that?
Yeah. I never knew.
I think that's an underwater welder. I'm gonna have to Google that.
Yeah, because he was like, it's a high hazard job, but you make a ton of money because of the hazards. But he was in the welding class and learning about all these different options, and I was really blown away by that because, when I was in school, that was really not presented. Maybe I wasn't in the right classes to get that information. I don't know.
Well, I think that's part of the disconnect too, is because there's so many options available right now. I think schools, especially high schools, need to catch up.
Yeah.
And they can't really do that on their own. No. And, it's different across communities as well too, because the school that I went to, they did have classes, like they had their automotive class where kids would work on cars and stuff. And then they have a construction class and they teach the kids how to build a frame and wire and all that stuff. And they just got a new welding teacher, and he is actually helping prep the kids to do their welding certification because he's actually a certified welding inspector. So I think we need to start bringing the trades back into schools. Some are doing a phenomenal job. Like there's one high school that I visited in McHenry County in Illinois where they actually have murals on the walls of the main manufacturers within their district. And those manufacturers are really funding those programs. But that's not it. It varies across communities. So definitely need to get everybody on the same page. But you didn't teach English though. You taught German.
But to teach a foreign language in the United States, you need to know English really well because you have students coming in and you're trying to teach them how, like, the sentence structure in a foreign language and talking about subjects, verbs, and objects. And a lot of times they don't know what you're talking about. So you have to be able to teach them like what that is in English, so that way they can, apply that in the foreign language. So that was not something I anticipated.
But that works out really well for you because, there's a lot of German companies that I know that struggle with their social media. True. So if you're from Germany and anyone's listening in and you need help with your social media stuff, you should contact Whitney because she'll be able to help you with all that. So when you made that switch to technical writing, what was it about technical writing that attracted you so much? Because a lot of people, I think, when they actually finally hear it, they think it's, writing instruction manuals and, lists and all that stuff, which, it can be a big part of that. But there's so much more involved, I think, now, especially with brand storytelling and marketing. So what attracted you to it?
Well, the technical writing that I did was like what you were mentioning, primarily instruction manuals. I really considered doing some kind of training, like a technical writing course to understand it more. I love that you did a degree in that. That was not something that, I don't think was available when I was in college. So I think it would be really interesting to go through a program dedicated to technical writing and learn about the different forms that it can take. But what I enjoyed about it was really coming from teaching. You don't have a lot of time to lesson plan, right? You maybe get one planning period in your day, and then you are teaching back to back to back, really short lunch break, and then you have to grade and make phone calls to parents and things like that. So I really focused on templatizing as much as possible, right? Like, you don't want to reinvent the wheel because you're just making things harder for yourself. So wherever you can templatize, standardize, you're just going to save yourself in the long run. And so that was really the approach that I took coming into Welker, like thinking about how can we standardize what we've got. We had, a large library of past manuals written by a number of different people. And so it was the first time there was one person really owning it. And, kind of taking a longer view, look at how we manage our manuals and how we go about setting them up. So I think figuring out the standardization of things and making the process clear, that was probably what I enjoyed the most. And then, over time, what I really appreciate about that is just the knowledge that I was able to gain about our products and industry just from working on those individual manuals, like day after day, year after year. When I moved over into the marketing department, I was sort of like, dang, like I know a lot, like more than I thought that I did. Especially, the first year in that role, I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, I don't know what any of this stuff is. So it was nice, a few years later to be able to just have that realization that, I understood our products and industry like much more than I thought that I did.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but I remember when I got my first job out of college, it was at a trade publication or a media. I was told not to call it that anymore. A media publication.
Mm-hmm.
And their very first question was, what's your engineering background? And I'm like, I don't have any. I'm not an engineer. And they're like, well, how do you write about technology? And I'm like, I went to school for technical writing. And I'm pretty sure my skill set is writing, so I don't know how to answer that question. It's not to build something or design it. And they were just like, okay. And it's the same though with like other manufacturing companies that I worked at. They asked what my engineering background was, and I'm like, that's what your engineers are for. I'm just supposed to take that information from them and pull it out because they don't know how to do that. And they were just like, oh, that's a good point. So it's just funny. But there are really good engineers out there that can do tech writing as well too, and they're really good at it. So if you can find someone with an engineering background, definitely look into them, because it's better to have it from both worlds. But it's also good to have an outside perspective. So I think tech writers who don't have the engineering background and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it gives me an outside, like it gives me an advantage because I ask questions that might never have come up before because I'm not familiar with that space. So I'm going to ask different questions from everyone else. But
I agree with that.
It's so fun. So if you're a writer and you suck at math and science, come join us on the writing side.
I think it also helps coming from an outside perspective, thinking about who is going to be reading whatever it is you're writing, whatever the documentation is. Like, are you speaking to someone who, doesn't have background knowledge, or like what kind of background knowledge are you assuming? And is it appropriate for the people who are actually going to be reading this? Or are we, really writing it from the stance of they have all this knowledge when maybe that's not the case. So I think coming from the outside and just, being able to write really so that anybody could understand, right, in theory, I think that's a good perspective to have. And when you're down there in the weeds, it's harder to be able to, separate yourself from that and really judge that accurately.
Yeah. Well, and to touch on your previous point about standardization, so when you work with a company that's been around for a really long time and they go through different shifts of leadership, the language and voice tends to change, right? So it's really important to have your brand guidelines and standardize some of that language so you're not confusing it with, previous generations. But the other thing too within engineering and manufacturing, and I'm having this conversation with one company in particular because, robotics and automation, it's not that old. Like, it's still a new technology. So there really isn't any standardization within that industry. And that causes a lot of problem. And the comparison that was given to me is when IT came about. First time buyers who are looking into IT didn't know all of the jargon or the lingo. It was just, this is an IT company. So they're not going to know the different terms and verbiage and all that stuff. And it's the same with first time buyers who want to automate their processes. They're not going to know the difference between, a systems integrator or a supplier or OEM. They just want to know what's available to me. What's it going to cost? What are the risks? Is it going to be easy for me to implement this? So that kind of opened up my eyes because I have fallen into that trap sometimes working with specific companies for a really long time where I start to use their jargon and I assume everybody else knows it because they're the ones using it. But if it's someone outside of their expertise, they're not using it. So it was a good lesson to learn for me. So definitely thinking about standardizing information. And I do want to bring up Jamie. He said just west of Toronto by an hour or so. I've never been there, Jamie, so I'm going to see you there. And then we have Karen. This is the link of the ministry Whitney
thanks
is
for sharing, Karen. That's awesome.
Thank you so much, Karen. And then she said, for more information, contact the Outreach Center. So make sure you guys take note of that. I think that's really good that there's people coming together and actually trying to help. Because, one of the things too is I'm trying to educate manufacturers are just don't look at the next generation. I've talked to so many women who switched their careers, like in their mid 30s and afterwards, because they just were not happy and they got into manufacturing and they're like, I wish I would have done this sooner. And I'm like, that's awesome. So definitely look at the current generations as well too. And then we have Hank. Hi, Hank. Tell your daughters I said hi. I want to meet them someday, just so you know. Just so you know, we gotta put that out there. And then Karen said, when I get asked what I do, I use the anger translator from the Key and Peele comedy skit to explain I'm a tech translator, making sure the business and the tech team actually understand each other. I'm gonna have to look that up, Karen. I haven't seen that skit.
Me either.
And then for anyone tuning in, if you have questions for Whitney, feel free to drop them in, and I'll be sure to ask her during our skit. But I want to talk about social media because that is something I see a lot of manufacturers still struggling with. And there's a misconception with some companies, I believe, where they think it's easy to do, and it's not. So when you're talking with companies that are struggling, because you don't just work with Welker, you work with other companies as well too, like the Forest Foundation. But what is your strategy for helping companies with their social media? Like, do you have like a to-do list, a check-off list, a starting point? What's your process like when building a social media strategy for manufacturers?
Sure. Yeah. I think the first thing is really to figure out what's your goal for being on social media. Because social media can do a lot of things for you, right? You can raise brand awareness. If you have e-commerce on your site, you can advertise your products. Social media is used for hiring, so you can be, sharing about your company culture. So what is it you're trying to achieve? I wouldn't just start throwing spaghetti at the wall. I would really take some time to think about what is it you even want, and like what do you consider to be success on social media? Because you can start out looking at metrics, and I do think it's important to grow your follower base, but really it should be more about quality than quantity. So think about, what's most important to you. And then also I would consider what is sustainable. it would be great to be on every single social media channel, but that's a lot of work. And also not every channel is maybe the best fit for you and, who you're trying to reach. And also, yeah, sure, it'd be great to post every day, multiple times a day. Again, that's a lot of work. So what is it that you are able to do? Or, if that's something that you want to outsource, I think just understanding that, there are companies and organizations out there with social media managers and full social media teams, and just realizing that it's a big deal. It's not something that you just give to an intern for the summer, or do every now and then. Like, really having a plan and then a cadence that your audience can come to expect from you are huge. And if you can't do it from a company level, do it yourself, right? Like, work on your LinkedIn profile, like optimize that, work on building relationships yourself through your personal LinkedIn account. I think that gets overlooked and underappreciated a lot, just the power of your own personal brand. And I think it's important for really all companies to realize, at least when it comes to LinkedIn, personal profiles and personal posts get way better organic reach than company posts do. So if you're only posting from your company account and really not thinking at all about yourself as a company leader, or getting employees on board to build their own personal brands and be kind of brand ambassadors, you're really limiting yourself there. So yeah, it's a much bigger thing than I think people just assume that it is. I think they think it's just easy, and it's really not. It's like any other business function, right? There's a lot of thought and planning that needs to go into it.
Yeah. So what is your opinion on companies who try to force posting on some of their employees? Because I've worked with companies who've been they've been around for a really long time, and they have a large population of the baby boomers. And some of them just don't want to do it. They don't want their personal profile out there. They don't want to connect with a bunch of people. Like, it's just not for them. So what's your advice in terms of the different generations that might be working at a company, for manufacturers to really get them to kind of promote some of their stuff? Not all of it, but maybe some engagement and interaction.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. And it's pretty similar here. There isn't a lot of employee engagement, because, most people don't really want to be on social media. I think a lot of folks we have are more on the lurker side, where they're there and scrolling and, seeing what's going out there, but not really engaging. And, that's totally valid. I don't think we should try and force people into doing things that really are not part of their personality. But if you have someone who's even mildly interested, I think having some conversations with them and, doing a little bit of hand holding and seeing okay, what are your hesitations? How can we help you? There are some really great people out there who can help with that. So, for example, Polly Rose helped one of my coworkers with his LinkedIn presence, just understanding, okay, how do I optimize my profile for the people I'm trying to reach? And, how do I even do things on LinkedIn, right? Like, we talked internally about, it'd be great if you would like and share posts. But then we realized that's not something he actually really understands how to do. And so showing how to use the different functions on LinkedIn, and just talking about the importance of a cadence and working on setting up a schedule that works for you. And so, it doesn't have to be all time consuming. I think some of the worry is that it'll be a huge time suck, and that you'll, look up at the screen at the end of the day and realize, oh, I just spent all day on here. And I mean, you can certainly do that, but just realizing you don't have to, right? Even just a few minutes every day and being consistent really goes a long way when speaking to LinkedIn. And so he had been doing them for several months, like regularly on the same day each week, sharing a post and kind of developing thought leadership and making connections in that way. So, it doesn't have to be crazy. It can be
Right.
simple. And I would definitely say, start small, and it's better to do a little bit than nothing.
Right. So Karen, she had two comments that I want to show. She said, "Don't count us older folks out. I'm not ready to be put out to the pasture." We're not putting anyone out to the pasture, Karen. Don't worry about it. My dad is in his mid-70s and he's still consulting and manufacturing because I feel like if he stops, he thinks that's the end of him. So he just keeps going.
Yeah.
And then she said, "I think the biggest challenge is they don't see social media as a business function." I would agree with that. I think there's a shift happening now with some companies with their sales team, which is really interesting. So they'll build, and this is to touch on your comment about standardization too. They'll build templates for like the header images and stuff for certain members of their team, and then they'll switch that out with whatever product or service that they're featuring for that quarter. I had a conversation prior to this about social media, and I promised everybody I would share a template, and I didn't. So you can hate me; it's very valid. But I have a template that I share with people where it's just a spreadsheet, and it splits up the year in quarters, and then it has like a theme for each quarter, and then it tracks not just their social media stuff, but also like their publication, their ads, their events. The company PhotoFab that I worked at. Her name was Clancy. She's such an awesome person to work for. Like she just was such a great leader, especially for women, because she challenged me. She let me make mistakes. She let me ask questions and take risks. But she's the one that shared this template with me, and it made things so much easier to keep track of. So I'll have to give that. So I have my idea of what the top channels are for manufacturers specifically are. So I wanted to see what your opinion was, but definitely I think LinkedIn is number one. And this is just my opinion. And then I think Instagram Reels might be number two. And then I'm seeing an uptick in Twitter again for manufacturers. And then I'm seeing a lot of activity on TikTok.
Yeah.
So those are the four. But Pinterest is also in there because I've seen a lot of product information on Pinterest, believe it or not, and how-to videos, which is weird because I'm like, usually when I think of Pinterest, I'm thinking of like, how to do your own clothing or something like that, not manufacturing, which I guess is manufacturing. But what's your opinion?
Yeah, I say if a company can really only focus on one channel, I think LinkedIn would probably be it. Welker is on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And I did create a TikTok, though I haven't made any content on TikTok. I just haven't been able to devote the time to it. But I think, the manufacturing hashtag on TikTok is supposed to be really big. And I know some of my friends like Julie Basello at Radwell and also the folks at Obsidian are really active on TikTok. Gail is here too. Like I know she really likes TikTok. So I think there's definitely an audience there and a lot of potential. Twitter, when I started out doing social media at Welker, we had our Twitter account and I was posting there, but really not getting a lot of traction, and personally just didn't really understand Twitter that much, to be honest. I'm not a personal Twitter user, not very often. And it wasn't until I got connected with the USA Manufacturing Hour group on Twitter that, my perception of the channel changed a lot. And it's also really helped the Welker account to grow in terms of reach and number of followers. And it's been a great place to learn personally as well, just within that chat every week. And depending on your company and what it is you do in your role, it's also an opportunity for you to lead a chat and, be a thought leader within the manufacturing industry, the manufacturing community. So I think that group is huge if you are going to be on Twitter. personally, I love Instagram. That's my favorite social media channel. So I like the variety of media that you can share. You know, like shorter form videos in the form of reels, longer form videos. I like stories, and I was so excited when they let everyone add links to stories, and that wasn't just the swipe up for certain accounts anymore. Like that was super exciting.
Yeah.
And that's probably kind of nerdy to say, but yeah, there are so many great platforms out there. We're on Facebook. I find Facebook to be kind of anymore. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. I know there are companies out there that have success and people who, you know, still like it as a platform, but that's not a platform I really invest much time in.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm only on there strictly for like my family and friends stuff, but I
Yeah.
post all of these episodes on there, of course. And then if
Hmm.
there's like an interesting article, I'll put that on there. But I really don't like
Yeah.
Facebook that much.
I will. Yeah, I
Sorry,
will
Facebook,
say.
but
Yeah. I will say like groups are really big on Facebook. So if there
yeah,
is,
that's
you know, an
true.
audience for you to create your own group or be part of another group, you know, I think that could be a really great opportunity. Because
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who have Facebook, same as you, like for family and then also for certain groups, and that's the same reason why I have my account still is to
Yeah.
just stay in touch with some people and then have access to those groups.
I'm definitely going to be doing more on Twitter now because when USA Manufacturing Hour reached out to me, I was kind of confused about how the whole process was going to go
Yeah.
because I'm admittedly I'm not very good at Twitter, and it's because I was really good at it back in my trade publication days, but
Mm-hmm.
then I kind of just ignored it when I was switching from marketing departments to
Mm-hmm.
different manufacturing companies. But what I liked about it is that it gives you that short piece of content that you can use across channels. So like
Mm-hmm.
I picked a template that was, you know, I can use it on Facebook, I can use it on Twitter, I
Mm-hmm.
can use it on Instagram, I can use
Yeah.
it on LinkedIn. So I can reuse that information, create different posts now from the
Mm-hmm.
questions that I had. But I also like I don't know the company that does the articles, but the follow-ups that come after that
Mm-hmm.
include the conversation that
Yes.
happened, that's a
Yes.
great backlink to have. So
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely an unique way to get manufacturers involved and get that backlink for the whole
Yes.
conversation. So
Yes.
we had a lot of comments that came up. So Katie's here. Hi Katie. Thanks for joining us. And then we have Nicole Donnelly.
Oh,
Hi.
yay! Hey, Nicole.
Thank you for joining us. And then Katie goes, Happy Friday,
Yes.
Whitney.
Happy Friday indeed.
And then Karen brought
YouTube.
up
Yeah.
shorts. Yes. So
That's a
I'm not
good point.
very good at those, Karen, but you're not the only person that has approached me with YouTube shorts. Jeff Long from True Focus Media has brought those up to me, and Jake Hall, Chris Luki, and Tim Wilborn have also mentioned YouTube Shorts, and apparently they're doing really well on LinkedIn
Yeah.
too. So,
Oh, interesting. Okay.
yeah. So if you use them on LinkedIn and then connect into the longer form content.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was Jeff Long from True Focus Media that told me this, but basically what he does is he does like the long recording and then he breaks it up into the YouTube shorts. So
Yeah.
it's all going back to that long
Yeah.
form,
That makes sense.
which is really cool. So a lot of cool stuff. And then Kara and I agree when I want to research something, I Google it and YouTube it.
Yeah. That's for,
And then
yeah.
Values shout out to US Manufacturing Hour. And then I only made a Twitter. That's
True.
fair. Well, and the other thing that I learned doing that opportunity, so I knew about Buffer. I heard about it, but I never
Mm-hmm.
used it until they told me to use that platform to schedule out
Mm-hmm.
tweets. But you can also upgrade it so that you can add more channels.
Yep.
And what I liked about it is you could create bulk posts, but then you could customize each post individually
Mm-hmm.
before scheduling them out.
Yep.
So I like that because I don't use a scheduler for my posts,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt a little bit better after the last conversation I had about social media because I was like, I just do everything manually. And so many women were like, yeah, me too. Like, I don't schedule anything out. I'm like, I'm glad I'm not the only one. Cause a
Yeah.
couple of my guy friends were like, why are you doing that? Just schedule them. Like, cause it's
Well,
not the same.
yeah, well, and you'll do better. I think, the reach is different using a scheduling tool versus being on the platform. I had a conversation about this the other day, and it's also just a very different experience using a scheduling tool, also like for responding to comments versus being on that platform and responding directly in that way and engaging through that platform versus through your scheduling tool and having a certain stream. I mean, it can definitely, streamline your process, but it's really not the same, I think, in terms of getting to like building a community and getting to know them. And then also, by doing it manually in platform, you get that kind of boost with your organic reach and making the algorithm happy.
Yeah, I agree. I missed these comments. Instagram girl here
Yeah.
too. Woohoo. Karen, Katie deactivated my Twitter account. Looks like I will be following your path just for US.
Do it, Karen. Come join us.
Yeah, Karen, I was the same way when they asked me to do the Twitter chat. I was just like, why would I do? And it was actually really fun, and they have a
It
really
is.
great group that interacts and stuff, and it's just more content for your channel. So I definitely recommend that. And the chat group is fire. You will not be disappointed. I'm
It's a
not
lot
on
of fun.
Facebook. I'm not on Facebook, but it works really well for employee engagement. And then Raymond, sorry I'm late.
Hey, Raymond.
No worries, Raymond. We have a recording that will be posted after this conversation, so you can catch yourself up. For anybody that chimes in late, Mavens does have a YouTube channel, so be sure to subscribe to that channel. That's my shameless plug. And then Katie, Dave Chrysler does awesome shorts. Katie, that's funny because the last time we talked about David Chrysler's shorts, I actually thought we were talking about the shorts he wears. And they were like, no, it's YouTube shorts. And I'm like, well, that was not. So it made it funny.
Maybe it's
Well,
both.
yeah, maybe he might have some cool Hawaiian shorts somewhere. I don't know. David's going to be like, why do you keep talking about my pants? Because Megan didn't have enough coffee one day, and that's what I thought we were referencing, but we're not. So Whitney, in terms of like technical writing, what are the advantages for companies to actually have someone with tech writing experience to do some of their writing? Because I get this asked all the time, like, why should we hire you? Like, what skill set can you provide us? So I wanted to get your insights on that and see how you answer that question.
Yeah. I feel really strongly about documentation and like documentation control and record keeping. I just think that is it's huge for a company, and companies really should have policies on their record management and how long things are kept and how things are supposed to be kept. That is maybe kind of a result of moving into the role after several different people had held it, and the person before me had tried to pull things together as best as possible, but there wasn't a really clear way of keeping records. And I think also when you're talking about documentation and going back and making revisions, it's helpful to have a backup to be able to go and see, well, who checked this? What were their comments? Why did it end up being this way? I just feel like the backup is super helpful. And if you are someone who's been with the company forever, yes, I'm sure every like the ins and outs of the equipment, but then that might also predispose you to thinking, well, I don't need to keep any notes because everyone already knows this, right? And just kind of making that assumption that it's not necessary, and I just really don't agree with that. And so I think it's important to have people who understand the importance of record keeping and having a system for tracking and making sure that what's out there, public facing, is the correct version, and to have people really focusing solely on that and making sure things are updated on time. It's just like any other business function, right? You want someone who really understands that, Like for an engineering position, you wouldn't hire someone who didn't have an engineering background.
Right.
It's important just like anything else. So
Yeah,
now.
I 100% agree with you, and I'm so glad that you mentioned the record keeping stuff too, because I've worked for several companies where that just wasn't a priority, and and maybe this is just part of my OCD, but the most annoying thing getting into a company that you're trying to help organize is the different file names that they have, and you can't find the file, or they'll take a bunch of photos and they don't change the default name that it gives the photo, and then you're just looking at a bunch of letters and numbers and you have no idea what that photo is. It's super, super annoying. Well, Whitney, this has been great. I do want to go through the rest of these comments, but while I'm doing that, if you had one ask for our audience today, what would your biggest ask be for them?
Oh, my big ask. I think in terms of social media, it would be to focus on your personal brand, right? Take a look at your LinkedIn profile and see what can you update. Do you need a new profile picture? Do you have a tagline? Do you have a banner image? And if you're working with a company and you want to be a bit more of an ambassador for them, did they have any collateral that you can use, like a banner image that you can borrow from, or wording and things like that? I think social media really kind of starts with you and your own brand. So I would start there.
Awesome. And we have so many funny comments right now. Did she just do a free plug? Yes. All the time. I do that. That's the emoji that didn't show up, LOL. And then Karen is helping me out by putting my YouTube link in there. Thanks so much, Karen. I appreciate you. And then, Katie, here we are talking about our pants. We always get off topic, and that's fine. Oh, she did it again. Okay. And then no documentation. What happens if you win the lottery and tell the company to kick rocks or get abducted by aliens from outer space?
This is what I'm saying. Maybe it's something that came over from being in the classroom and, having to be out for a day and leave things for a substitute teacher. Maybe that's part of where my soapbox stance comes from. I don't know, but it's important to have stuff in place.
Yeah, I just have really bad OCD. So if I don't know where things are and it takes me a long time to find them, I get really stressed out, and then the rest of my day is ruined. So I just like to be stress-free and have a file for everything. Her abducted by aliens comment reminds me of the Saturday Night skit where the three got abducted by aliens. So if you haven't seen that, Karen, go Google that because it's hilarious. And you will laugh your head off. No standard file naming. Yes, that is annoying. And then dang, that gal asked me how
hard hitter there, Megan.
My questions aren't that hard. I think I'm pretty fun. Well, Whitney, this has been really fun, and I appreciate you coming to join me today, especially with all the stuff that you got going on. You're a boy mom just like me, so I know how hard it is to get away from your kids. And I'm actually quite shocked that it's been really quiet around here. I think my brother left with my kids, so that's helpful. But sometimes they come in and join the conversation. But if people want to learn more about Welker, or if they have questions about other services that you provide, where should they go and how can they get in touch with you?
Certainly. If you want to learn more about Welker, please visit our website at welker.com, WELKER.com. And as I mentioned earlier, we are on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Thanks for the reminder, Karen. And if you want to get in touch with me, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, send me a message, comment on the post, and I'm happy to talk with you more.
And if you're in Germany, she knows German.
I would love to go back. I'll be your tour guide. You can bring me along.
That's awesome. Well, to everyone that joined in and commented too, I want to say thank you for joining us today on Mavens of Manufacturing. I do want to shout out to Amper, who gave me this awesome shirt. Manufacturing is sexy. Andrew Crow, I have one. Ha! Now you're not the only one with this shirt. And then a huge shout out to my sponsor, which you'll be hearing from next, Fresh Horizons. Everybody tells me that they love my logos and they love my shirts. They're the company to go see if you need any merch items. So contact them, and they're coming up right now. So happy Friday, everyone. Take care. See you next week. Bye. This episode of Mavens has been sponsored by Fresh Horizons Group. Fresh Horizons Group is a family-run company that was founded on the premise of helping organizations and businesses better tell their story through high-quality branded apparel and promotional items. Freshen up your brand by contacting Fresh Horizons today at freshhorizonsgroup.com.